Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine18 Tarot and Books. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome or welcome back. In this video, I want to look at the reading that I've completed thus far in 2025. It is very late in November as I'm filming this, so it feels like a good time to revisit the 5 goals that I set for myself related to reading in 2025. I also want to, for the first time, make a VR to the end of the year book tag. This is a book tag that was started quite a number of years ago by Ariel Bissett. I will link the video related to this tag in the description box below. And it is a tag that has some revised prompts for this year. So I've never answered the old prompts, but from my understanding, there were an initial set of prompts and they've now been changed slightly to have something new for this year. So I'm going with the 2025 prompts. I will timestamp in the description box below my initial section discussing my 5 reading goals and my progress thereon, as well as the questions for the end of the year book tag. There are 7 questions. Without further ado, I will start with the 2025 reading goals. I set 5 goals for myself with respect to 2025 reading. The first is a goal that I have every year. It has never changed in the time that I've been making reading related resolutions, and that is to read widely and diversely and have a great time. I'm going to say that I have accomplished this. I am accomplishing this. I have really enjoyed a lot of what I've read this year. I feel like I've read pretty broadly in a number of different respects and plan to continue to do so. So while I am not ready to share 2026 goals just yet, I can give the preview that this will continue forward. The second reading goal I set for myself for 2025 was to read 100 books and 30,000 pages. Now, these are goals that every year I set because Storygraph prompts me to do so. And I review books on Storygraph. The link to that is below. So I feel oddly compelled by it to put something there. I'm not too strictly set on the idea of hitting these numbers. Ultimately, I think, the reading widely and diversely and having a great time is far more important to me than a book number or a page number. I've been setting my goal at 100 books per year for a number of years now because it tends to be roughly where I land, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little bit less. And the 30,000 pages, this is the first year where I think I've set a page goal, but I did look back at prior years' amounts of reading in order to inform that in a realistic way. So as of the time of this filming, I am confident that I will reach the 100 books in 2025. I'm into the mid-90s at this point, so I feel quite good about that. The 30,000 pages, I feel, is less, certain, less likely, perhaps. I am in the 26,500 kind of a page range. Storygraph takes every opportunity it can to tell me that I am behind by, 500 to 800 pages, depending on what day I look at it and how much reading I've done. So I'm not sure if I will reach that goal or not, but I will be, equally happy whether I meet that goal or not. The third reading goal that I set for myself in 2025 was to participate in 3 or more readathons. I really like a readathon. I have found them to be a good way to connect with other readers, including other folks who are on BookTube, and so that's usually where I've found the readathons that I've participated in. I really have enjoyed when those readathons have had Discord servers attached and lots of chatting happening. And I think that there will be a readathon related goal for 2026 as well, because I really do just enjoy them. They push me outside of my comfort zone a little bit. They lead me to find new books and recommendations that I wouldn't have come across otherwise. So there's something that I really enjoy. And I have succeeded in this goal of 3 readathons already. I did a kind of do-it-yourself readathon at the beginning of 2025 where I invited viewers to offer me prompts, and I read the prompts that you all gave me. I will link to a video about that below. But even not counting that, I did participate this year in Asian Readathon, which I've completed a number of times. I participated in Tarot Readathon for the first time, if you can believe it. I had a lot of fun with that. I participated in Battle of the Bara Dynasties, and I participated in Black Queen. So, lots of readathon in 2025. I have enjoyed all of them, and I hope to continue on with readathons. The 4th reading goal I set for myself for 2025 is to read at least 1 book in French. And I had this goal in 2024 as well. And for 2024, I read The Little Prince in its original French. And so for 2025, I set the goal to read at least 1 book in French that I haven't already read multiple times in English, and that also isn't a book that is geared towards children. I would say, learning French. I live in Canada, for folks who don't know, so I have had, French classes throughout my education, and it is something that I actively work to keep up and improve on. And so I did do this. I don't have anything on my book reviewing website profiles or anything for the year of having read a book in French, but I did read the guidebook to a French language oracle deck called L'Oracle de la Nature Sacrée, Oracle of Sacred Nature. The deck is in a box that looks like this, and the deck and book both are in French exclusively. So the deck, just to detour into a deck very briefly, has single titles on the cards, all of which are in French. And then the guidebook as well, it's a French deck, is in French as well. So for each card you have keywords, and then you have some interpretations. You have indication of whether it's a positive or negative or neutral card. You have a mention of the symbolism, and so I've gone through this. There's also some extra material at the beginning of the book about ways of reading the cards. There's there's some good stuff in here. So I have read 1 book in French. This feels like a little bit of a cheat on this in some way. When I had set this goal, it wasn't what I had in mind. I thought that I would read a short novel or something like that, but I thus far have not. So I'm counting it as goal accomplished in letter, if not in spirit. The last goal I set for myself for 2025 was to read more diversely in terms of reading international books, and specifically to read at least 10 books in translation. And I set this goal just really having noticed, looking at my reading statistics for the last couple of years, how US-centric my reading has been. I would say that I read diversely in other ways, but quite US-centric in terms of the books that I'm reading, and also that I just really hadn't read a lot of translations in 2024 or 2023, and so I thought I would want to prioritize that. I have done this, I think. I have so far in 2025, with just a month left to go, read books by authors in, I believe, 26 countries, or authors from 26 different countries. And I have read 10 books in translation, and I wrote down the languages from which the books I read were translated into English. This year I have read 2 books that were originally written in Chinese, 1 Spanish, 1 in Ukrainian, 2 that were originally written in Arabic, 1 that was originally written in Finnish, 1 in Persian, 1 in Danish, and 1 originally written in Korean. So 10 translations is a goal that I've accomplished. And I think that I may stick with this for 2026. I think that it's a good way of broadening my reading, and I have enjoyed these books that I've read. So that is my progress so far in 2025 reading goals. Shifting here, I want to move into the end of the year book tag. So again, the book tag has 7 prompts, and I will timestamp them below. These are, again, the revised prompts for 2025. So the first question is, are there any books that you started this year that you need to finish? I'm not going to say I'm embarrassed about this, because I'm not. I have a book that I started in 2024 that I need to finish, that I am setting a goal to finish by the end of 2025. And that book is Hellenistic Astrology, The Study of Fate and Fortune by Chris Brennan. So this is a large book. It is over 650 pages long, and it is at times quite dense. And I have been reading this book in conjunction with Chris Brennan's Hellenistic Astrology course, which has a lot of content in it. It has different kind of units or modules that have lecture content, reading from this book, reading from primary source texts. Sometimes there are worksheets or different kind of supplemental videos. There's a lot there. And I have been working through this book chapter by chapter as it is assigned in the context of that course. So my progress with this has been tied to the speed at which I have moved through the course. It is not something that I have wanted to rush, and if it's a thing that you're interested in, I frankly would not ever suggest it being a thing that you rush. It is, it's complex, and there's a lot there. So that is a book that I need to finish this year, or that I really want to anyway. I have 1 unit left, and that is on zodiacal releasing, which is completely new to me, so I'm going to be spending the next quite a while on it, but I do want to finish at least the core lecture and the reading from this book by the end of the year, if not the whole course itself. There's plenty of supplemental stuff for me to go back and explore as I go, but that is the book that I need to finish. Question number 2. Do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? No. I would not say that I really think about my reading in this way. I don't think in terms of autumnal books necessarily. I do tend to do kind of spooky season, read horror in October. I did that this year, but nothing in particular that feels seasonal right now, unless you count the fact that it is day planner season. So I will be doing day planner and journal setup for 2025. I will share that in another video. So if there's an autumnal seasonal book that I'm focused on, it is that. I don't think that's what the question is asking, though. Question number 3 is there a new release that you're still waiting for? At this point, it's the end of November. There isn't a lot on my list, and I do have an actual list. It's in a spreadsheet of new releases that I'm interested in checking out. There's not a lot there that hasn't come out already, but one that releases in December that I'm keen to check out when I can is We Will Rise Again, Speculative Stories and Essays on Protest, Resistance, and Hope. This is a collection that is edited by Karen Lord, Annalee Newitz, and Malka Older, co-edited, And it includes both short fiction and essays from organizers. I think it looks like a really cool project, so I'm definitely keen to check that out. Question number 4 is, what are 3 books that you want to read before the end of the year? So I'm somewhere between a planner and a mood reader. I'm not planning the rest of my year too strictly, but if I could pick 3 books that I want to finish before the end of the year, I would say that they are Outlaw Planet by M.R. Carey. I received this as an ARC, and I'm about 65% of the way through it now. So I definitely want to finish that by the end of the year because I don't want it to be the last book I read in the end of the year. I have a full month left, so I will want to finish that one. I also want to read before the end of the year The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. This is something that my friend has generously loaned to me. And I know that she is keen for me to read this so that we can then discuss it together. So once I'm done Outlaw Planet, The Bloody Chamber is the next book that I plan to read. And finally, I will say, last but not least, I really want to read Yoon-Ha Lee's Hexarchate stories before the end of the year. This is a collection of short stories, as the name suggests, set in the Hexarchate series, which began, of course, with Nine Fox Gambit. I loved the trilogy, and so this additional set of stories set in that universe, I'm really excited to dig into. I think that it's a really great, series. I really like Yoon-Ha Lee. I've liked other things that Yoon-Ha Lee has written as well. And my physical bookshelf with all of my unread books on it is a little bit packed at the moment. So prioritizing reading some things that I have on that shelf also feels like a good thing. And so that will be the third one. Question number 5 in the tag is, what trends have you noticed in your reading this year? And I'm looking down because I have the prompts taped to my camera tripod. Trends in my reading this year. So the way that I chose to approach this is by looking at my reading spreadsheet for the year so far. I use a spreadsheet created with Allie on Etsy. I will link to that shop below where you can find this spreadsheet. And a cool thing about it is that you fill in your books that you've read with whatever kind of categorizations that you want. There's a bunch of different columns. You can hide the ones you don't care about. And then it generates these different pie graphs and statistics on your reading. So I've enjoyed looking at this. Some of the charts are interesting. Something that, I don't know, this feels kind of random. I've read a lot of blue books. It is something that you can do in the spreadsheet to choose the predominant color of the cover of a book. And it seems that blue has been the one that I've gravitated towards. I do read a lot of ebooks, so I'm not even going to say that this indicates that I'm really drawn to the color blue, because I'm often not necessarily choosing books by their covers, but who knew? Blue books it is for 2025. I also noticed in my reading that I have read more books this year by authors that I have read before than I have by authors who are either debut authors or who are new to me. I am not surprised by this. I definitely have authors that I gravitate towards, and if they release something, I'm more likely to pick it up, having liked previous work. This is despite, though, my having read more standalones than series. So that part is a little bit surprising, because I think that obviously reading, trilogies or longer series than that means reading multiple books by the same author, sometimes, multiple in the same year. But despite reading predominantly standalones this year, 67% standalone versus 33% books in a series, I still read more authors that I was already familiar with. finally, also unsurprising for me, half the books that I've read this year, I categorized their main genre as either fantasy in the case of 25 titles or sci-fi in the case of 22 titles. The next highest category in terms of the options that I made for myself in main genre is nonfiction. So that gives a sense of what I've been reading this year, I think, in a fun, visually interesting way. Question number 6 is, how do you feel about your reading goals? Anything that you want to change, adjust, or abandon? So I wanted to look back on my goals as its own portion of the video at the beginning. So I feel like I've pretty much answered this. I feel good about where I'm at. There have been some rough patches this year, including, some pretty heavy grief time and a little bit of up and down in terms of health as well. So I haven't read as much as I maybe thought I would, but I feel really good about, what I've read, and it's always fine to me if I don't reach the kind of quantitative goals. If I wasn't reviewing on Storygraph, I probably wouldn't even set them. So I feel good. I feel good about the goals. Finally, last question is question number 7. Have you already started making reading plans for next year? Not really. I would say that I have made reading plans only in the vaguest, kind of most general sense, in that I do already have some arcs from NetGalley that are 2026 releases. So obviously I plan to read those books, if not in December, then in the coming year. I don't request arcs that I don't plan to read, so that's part of the plan. I definitely want to participate in some of my favorite readathons. Again, in 2026, I love Asian Readathon. We'll do that again, presuming that it runs. Same with Tarot Readathon. I had a lot of fun doing it this time. If it runs again in 2026, I would be into participating. Black Halloween as well. I'm sure I'll probably come across some new readathon that I haven't heard of yet, but I definitely plan on doing some of those. And beyond that, I haven't really set any reading plans for next year. I have been thinking about how I think about TBRs and planning and, mood reading versus making TBRs versus goals and all of these things. And maybe that's a video on its own. I think that'd be a good topic. I like videos on that topic. But I'm inclining towards planning a little less, if anything. So not making too strict of plans. Tentatively, I do hope to make more BookTube content. I have been on and off pretty absent this year, and there are reasons for that. Those reasons still exist in many cases, but I really like talking about books here, and I really like hearing what other people have to say about books and sharing thoughts and sharing enthusiasm for reading. So tentatively, it's not a reading goal per se, but I hope to share more of my reading here with you. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any particular reading goals that you set for 2025 that you'd like to share, how you're going on those, please do leave me a comment. Same with if you have any particular 2026 reading goals that you've already committed to. I would love to hear about those and chat with you more. I will see you again sometime soon. Have a good one.